who is the on-the-spot reporter. So we are two news hosts in a sort of like TMZ gossip-style show set in Thornfield, like at the time period. Good morning, ladies and lords, and thank you for joining us on our 9 o'clock broadcast of the Thornfield Review. As always, I am your host, Charlemagne Gedge.
And I'm Horsham Gridwig.
Ladies and lords, today we bring you a bombshell story that will rock you almost as much as the Revolutionary War.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
This program is brought to you by Ye Old Absinthe.
Housewife on your nerves again? Enjoy a glass of Ye Old Absinthe, made with 100% of, well, we're not quite sure. But boy, does it taste good. Try a glass of Ye Olds today at your local pub. And now, back to your regularly scheduled program.
It is no secret that Mr. Edward Playboy Rochester had his fair choice of women while traveling Europe. It seemed that in every town he went, there was another young woman on his arm. But there was something more to the story that us back home weren't privy to.
After comments told us by anonymous sources, the Thornfield Review did some grade A dirt digging. We sent our top team of investigators to do some research for us, and the information we found might knock you off your clogs.
After a long series of letters with the Thornfield pastor, we finally gained access to the town's marriage records. Ladies and lords, while Mr. Rochester was living it up with the ladies in Europe, he had a wife back home.
You heard that right, folks. As it turns out, Mr. Rochester and his not-so-happily betrothed got married in the West Indies a few years back, before his exhibitions through Europe. However, what Mr. Rochester did not know at the time of the wedding was that his wife was an insane drunk. Not to anyone's surprise, this left poor old Eddie quite unhappy. But in a strangely beneficial turn of events, his father and brother both died, leaving him with the property he currently resides on.
And boy, does it get juicier from here. Rochester's new estate provided him with a whole lot of space, enough to keep his entire attic empty, apparently.
What a weirdo. Everyone's got something in their attic.
You got that right. I don't even want to think about what I got rotting up there.
Stay on topic, Charlemagne.
Right. Anyways. So our good man Eddie decides that with all his new attic space, he needs something to keep up there. Make things feel a little less empty, I suppose.
Well, folks, what better to keep in your attic than your wife?
Good Lord. God bless his soul.
I'm into that, my good man. Rochester decides that, since his wife is as good as gone, he can go off and party away in England, which means it's time for all the mistresses he desires. In his search for true love, Rochester ends up having a little rascal of his own.
Whoopsies.
After years and years of this child pressing on his conscience, he volunteers to take the child, named Adele, into his estate after her mother abandons her, even though he continues to insist that it's not his own.
Yeah, likely story. Keep rolling with that one.
This new child leaves Rochester needing another hand around the house.
God knows he won't be sticking around much to take care of her.
So Rochester's left in a sticky spot. Should he hang around in one place long enough to raise her? Luckily, Rochester's housekeeper, Mrs. Fairfax, took it upon herself to respond to a local governess ad. Soon, little Adele had her very own governess, letting Rochester off the hook.
Boy, did Rochester find a quick solution. The same informant who provided us with the information for this juicy scoop also tells us that a young woman named Jane Eyre has taken the role of Adele's new governess. Will Jane remain a governess? Or perhaps soon become a stepmother?
Charlemagne!
Not like the guy doesn't have a history.
Well, here we are today. All bets are off on Rochester's next move. Will our favorite playboy haul off to venture England again? Will he stick around to take care of Adele and maybe woo Miss Jane? Tune in to next week's episode of the Thornfield Review to get the latest scoop on all the Thornfield gossip. Until then, folks,
Cheerio!